Laboratory Encounters. Engineer Oliver Mason adjusted the environmental controls in Laboratory Module 7, stealing glances at the purple-skinned scientist across the room. Dr. Kiani worked with meticulous precision, her slender fingers dancing across the holographic interface as she analyzed soil samples from her homeworld, Zarantha. Oliver had been stationed on the orbital research station Aurora for nearly 6 months, but he still found himself fascinated by Dr. Kiani's movements. Her skin was a smooth lavender that seemed to shift subtly under the station's lighting, deeper purple in shadow, almost luminescent in direct light. Her silver-white hair was bound in intricate braids today, revealing the elegant curve of her neck. "You are staring again, Engineer Mason," she said without looking up, her voice carrying the distinctive melodic cadence of Zaranthian speech. Oliver cleared his throat awkwardly. "Sorry, just wondering about your progress with the terraforming simulations." A convenient excuse. She finally looked up, fixing him with eyes that shimmered like liquid mercury. "Your observation patterns are peculiar even for a human," she remarked, the corners of her mouth lifting slightly in what he'd learned was her version of amusement. "And your way of calling people out is uniquely Zaranthian," he replied with a smile, approaching her workstation. "The rest of the crew is watching the Interstellar Cup finals in the recreation deck. Thought you might want to join us. Could be interesting for your cultural studies." Dr. Kiani tilted her head slightly, a gesture Oliver had come to recognize meant she was considering something carefully. "Your Earth sports involve excessive physical contact and emotional displays. It makes for uncomfortable viewing," says the woman who showed me recordings of Zaranthian crystal dances that went on for 12 hours, Oliver countered. "Those are artistic expressions of astronomical alignments, Engineer Mason, not sweaty competitions." "Oliver," he corrected gently. "After 6 months, I think we can drop the formalities, don't you?" Her mercury eyes studied him for a moment. "Oliver," she repeated, his name sounding exotic in her accent. "And you may call me Kiani." He nodded, pleased with this small victory. Their professional relationship had evolved into something he couldn't quite define. Not quite friendship by human standards, but definitely beyond mere colleagues. He enjoyed their verbal sparring, the cultural misunderstandings that sometimes led to surprisingly profound conversations. "You know, you've been studying humans for almost half an Earth year now," Oliver said, picking up one of her delicate instruments and turning it over in his hands. "What's the most interesting thing you've learned about us so far?" "Your preoccupation with physical contact remains perplexing," she replied, gently taking the instrument from her hands and replacing it precisely. "The human tendency to touch during social interaction, shoulders, arms, these brief embraces you call hugs, it would be considered deeply intimate on Zarantha." "Really? Basic touches are intimate for your people?" Oliver asked, genuinely curious. "What would you consider something like a kiss, then?" Kiani blinked slowly, the silver of her eyes reflecting the lab lights. "A kiss? You know, when humans press their lips together," he explained with a slight smile. "Ah, your lip-pressing greeting. It's not exactly a greeting. Well, not usually. It's about affection, attraction, sometimes just fun." He shrugged, noticing the momentary discomfort that flickered across her usually composed features. "So, hypothetically speaking, what would happen if I kissed you? Would it set off some kind of diplomatic incident?" Oliver expected her typical response, perhaps a scientific explanation of why cross-species physical contact was inefficient, or maybe one of her subtle jokes about primitive human customs. Instead, Kiani went completely still, her hands hovering over her work. The laboratory suddenly felt several degrees colder. "Such an action would have significant consequences," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hey, I was just joking around," Oliver said quickly, sensing he'd crossed some invisible line. "On Zarantha," Kiani continued, as if she hadn't heard him, "the pressing of mouths is not a casual gesture. It is called the shalamar, the binding of breath. It is done only once in a lifetime." Oliver's smile faded as he recognized the seriousness in her voice. "What does it mean to your people?" Kiani looked directly at him, something vulnerable and ancient in her gaze. "It is how we choose our life bond. Once performed, it creates a physiological connection that never breaks until death." Cultural discoveries. The following week passed in uncomfortable awareness. Oliver found himself avoiding Kiani, taking meals at odd hours and swapping shifts with other crew members. Their easy camaraderie had been replaced by awkward nods in corridors and strictly professional exchanges when work required interaction. Station Director Nakamura noticed, of course. Nothing escaped her attention. "Whatever's happening between you and our Zaranthian guest, fix it," she said bluntly during their weekly briefing. "Your attention is affecting station morale, and we can't afford disruptions. The Zaranthian Science Council is watching this mission closely." "Nothing's happening," Oliver protested. "We had a cultural misunderstanding." "Then have a cultural understanding," Nakamura replied, sliding a datapad toward him. "You're scheduled for a maintenance check on the outer observatory dome tomorrow. Kiani has requested access for atmospheric readings at the same time. Sort yourselves out." The observatory dome was Aurora's most spectacular feature, a transparent hemisphere offering uninterrupted views of Earth below and the vast starscape beyond. When Oliver arrived the next day with his toolkit, Kiani was already there, her monitoring equipment arranged in a precise semicircle. "Engineer Mason," she acknowledged, without looking away from her instruments. "Dr. Kiani," he replied formally, then sighed. "This is ridiculous. We were friends before I put my foot in my mouth." Her mercury eyes flickered toward him. "An interesting idiom. You didn't literally—" "A figure of speech," he said, smiling despite himself. "It means I made a mistake." Kiani adjusted something on one of her devices. "You couldn't have known the significance of what you were suggesting. I feel like I accidentally proposed marriage or something." "The comparison is not entirely inaccurate," she admitted. "Though life bonding encompasses more than your human concept of marriage, it's a biological process, not merely a social contract." Oliver put down his tools and moved to stand beside her, gazing out at the blue-green world below. "Tell me about it. I want to understand." A moment of silence stretched between them before Kiani spoke. "When Zaranthians exchange breath through the shalamar, the kiss, as you call it, specialized cells in our oral membranes release compounds that enter the bloodstream of both participants. These compounds create permanent neurological changes, a literal biological connection." "That sounds intense," Oliver said quietly. "And this happens with just one kiss?" "Yes, it is why the choice of life bond is made with great deliberation." She touched her monitoring equipment, but seemed distracted. "The resulting bond allows emotional resonance between partners. Some describe it as feeling what the other feels." Oliver watched her profile against the stars. "No wonder you looked shocked when I joked about it." "I was not shocked," she corrected him. "I was contemplating possibilities I had not previously considered." Her admission hung in the air between them. Oliver felt something shift in his chest, a recognition of vulnerability offered and received. "I've missed talking with you this week." "As have I." Kiani turned from her equipment, facing him fully. "Your research on human-Zaranthian relations has become personally significant to me." He smiled. "Are you saying you like me, Dr. Kiani?" "Kiani," she countered, the hint of a smile touching her purple lips. "And yes, though like inadequately describes the complexity of my regard. On Earth, we might just call that falling in love. Inconvenient timing with your delegation here." "Perhaps perfect timing," Kiani countered. Tomorrow I will ask about something never before considered, the possibility of a human Zoranthian life bond. Diplomatic complications. Oliver stared at Kiani, speechless. The significance of what she was suggesting, the permanence of it, settled over him like a physical weight. Kiani, that's... He struggled to find words. Are you sure? You said it's forever for your people. It is, she confirmed, which is why I must consult the elders before we consider it further. But I wanted you to know my intention. She stepped closer, breaking her own cultural rule, close enough that he could see flecks of deeper purple across her cheeks. If they approve, would you consider it? Not now, but someday. In that moment, surrounded by the glow of alien flowers and the woman who had come to mean so much to him, Oliver realized the depth of his own feelings. He reached out slowly, giving her time to withdraw if she wished, and gently touched her cheek. I would, he whispered. I absolutely would. The atmosphere on Aurora shifted perceptibly the day after Kiani's meeting with the delegation. The Zoranthian visitors, previously cordial but reserved, now watched Oliver with undisguised curiosity. Whispers followed him through the corridors, a mixture of excitement and concern from the human crew who had noticed the change but couldn't identify its cause. What did you do? Dr. Patel cornered him in the mess hall. The purple delegation keeps staring at you like you're either going to explode or turn into their messiah. A cultural exchange, Oliver replied vaguely. Searching the room for Kiani, who had been conspicuously absent since her meeting, he eventually found her in an unlikely place, the station's small gymnasium, watching the stars through the reinforced viewport, while seated in perfect meditation posture. There you are, he said, relief evident in his voice. I've been looking everywhere. What happened with the delegates? Kiani's expression was difficult to read, even after months of learning her subtle cues. The meeting was intense. They had many questions about us, about you primarily, your psychological profile, your service record, your genetic compatibility. She gestured for him to sit beside her. They have never considered a cross-species life bond. The implications fascinate and concern them equally. Oliver sat, maintaining a respectful distance. And their verdict? They require more information before making a determination. Ambassador Zoran has requested your presence at a private audience tomorrow. They wish to evaluate you themselves. Evaluate me? Like an examination? More like an interview. But Oliver, you should understand the seriousness of this. If you've reconsidered, I haven't, he interrupted firmly, unless you have. The question hung between them, weighty with possibility. Kiani's expression softened, and she reached for his hand, an unprecedented gesture from her. My resolve has only strengthened, she said, her fingers cool against his. But the path ahead is uncharted. The elders have concerns about our physiological differences. The life bond might not work as expected, or at all. Or it might work perfectly, Oliver suggested, squeezing her hand gently. Only one way to find out. The following day, Oliver found himself in Aurora's formal conference room, facing the 5 Zoranthian delegates alone. They had ranged themselves in a semicircle, their formal attire making them look like judges in an alien court. Engineer Mason, Ambassador Zoran began without preamble. You understand why we have summoned you. To discuss the possibility of a life bond with Specialist Kiani. A possibility without precedent. Another delegate noted, her tone neutral. You claim to understand the permanence of such a bond. I do. Kiani has explained its significance and physiological nature. Has she explained that if the bond takes hold between you, her death would likely result in yours regardless of your physical condition at that time? I didn't know this detail, but he didn't flinch. No, but it doesn't change my position. And if the bond fails to form, asked a third delegate, if your biology proves incompatible, then we'll find another way to be together, Oliver replied simply. The bond isn't why I care for her. It's just one expression of it. The delegates exchanged glances, communicating in that silent way Oliver had observed between Xeranthians. Finally, Ambassador Zoran spoke again. "We have studied your species extensively, Engineer Mason, but find ourselves unable to fully comprehend your willingness to attempt this bond. What motivates such a decision?" "On Earth, we have a concept called a leap of faith, choosing to act despite uncertainty because the potential reward outweighs the risk. I believe Kiana is worth that leap." The room fell silent as the delegates conferred among themselves in their native language. Oliver waited, heart pounding, but resolve unshaken. "We have reached a decision," Ambassador Zoran finally announced. "The Zoranthian Council grants provisional approval for this unprecedented union with conditions. You and Specialist Kiani will be subject to continuous monitoring. If the Council determines at any point that the bonding attempt poses a threat to either party's well-being, we reserve the right to intervene." "I understand and accept your conditions," Oliver nodded, relief flooding through him. "There is one more matter," the ambassador continued. "Our scientists have theoretical concerns about cross-species bonding. The process may require modifications. Based on preliminary analysis, we believe a traditional Shalimar may be insufficient. A more extended period of physical connection might be necessary." "You mean?" "Your in-Earth concept of intimacy may be required," the ambassador confirmed, her tone clinically detached. "The exchange of various biological fluids could enhance the bonding process. Our scientists will provide detailed protocols." Just when Oliver thought the situation couldn't get more surreal, the ambassador added, "Additionally, the High Council has recalled Specialist Kiane to Zorantha for consultation. They believe her research would benefit from direct comparison between her experiences here and renewed immersion in our culture." "You're taking her away?" Oliver asked, unable to hide his dismay. "For 3 Earth months," the ambassador clarified, "during which time you both should consider the implications of your decision. If your resolve remains unchanged upon her return, the bonding attempt may proceed." 3 months! The words echoed in Oliver's mind as he left the conference room. 3 months without Kiani, right after they had begun to acknowledge their feelings. He found her waiting outside, her posture rigid with tension. "They told you?" she asked, her voice carefully controlled. Oliver nodded. 3 months. "It is not expected," she said, though her eyes betrayed her emotion. "The Council often requires reflection periods before significant life decisions." "When do you leave?" "Tomorrow." The word fell between them like a stone. Oliver reached for her hand, no longer caring who might see. "It's not that long, in the grand scheme of things." "No," she agreed, her fingers intertwining with his, "but it will feel longer." That night, they met in the observatory dome, seeking privacy among the stars. Kiani had brought a small device that emitted a soft, pulsing light. "A memory crystal," she explained. "It records sensory impressions, sight, sound, even emotional resonance. We use them to preserve significant moments." She activated the crystal, which floated between them, its light painting their faces in gentle radiance. "I wish to remember this," she said softly, "our last night before separation." "I wish to remember this," she said softly, "our last night before separation." "My temperature is rising," she said softly, "our last night before separation." "My body temperature is rising," she observed, her scientific tone belied by the breathlessness in her voice. "It is a common human reaction to proximity with someone attractive." "Fascinating," she murmured, her own hand moving experimentally up his arm. "Your musculature is different from ours, more dense." Their scientific observations gradually gave way to something more primal, more instinctive. Oliver's hands learned the unfamiliar contours of her body, while hers explored his with equal curiosity. Their touches grew bolder, more intimate, guided by soft gasps and whispered instructions. As Earth turned slowly beneath them and stars burned in the void beyond, they found a new kind of connection. Not the permanent bond of the Shalimar, but a physical language all their own. "I will miss this," Kiani said as they lay intertwined later. "I will miss you." 3 months, Oliver reminded her, pressing his lips to her forehead, a safe place that wouldn't trigger the life bond. "We can wait 3 months." The memory crystal pulsed softly above them, recording everything for the long separation ahead.
The impossible choice. 3 months stretched into an eternity. Oliver threw himself into his work, upgrading Aurora's systems and taking on extra shifts to fill the emptiness Kiani left behind. Their only communication came through official channels, brief, formal updates void of personal content. On the 92nd day, Director Nakamura called him to her office. "The Xeranthian shuttle is arriving early," she informed him. "Tomorrow." Oliver's heart raced. Did they say why? No. And Engineer Mason? Nakamura fixed him with a penetrating stare. "Whatever's happening between you and Specialist Kiani, it's gone beyond a personal matter. The Xeranthian High Council has sent their chief medical officer with her. That suggests this is about more than research." Oliver nodded, unable to deny it any longer. The shuttle docked the following morning. Oliver stood in the arrival bay, his stomach knotted with anticipation. When Kiani emerged, he barely recognized her. She wore formal Xeranthian attire, her silver hair elaborately styled. Her face was impassive, showing none of the warmth he remembered. "Engineer Mason," she greeted him formally. "May I present Chief Medical Officer Fallon of the High Council." An older Xeranthian with deep violet skin stepped forward. "We must speak privately," she said, without preamble. "Medical Laboratory 3, in 1 hour." For 60 agonizing minutes, Oliver paced his quarters. When he finally entered the laboratory, he found Kiani and Dr. Thalen waiting with an array of medical equipment. "Our tests confirm what we suspected," Dr. Thalen began without greeting. "A human Xeranthian life bond would be fatal to Specialist Kiani." The words struck Oliver like a physical blow. "What?" "The bond requires synchronized neurological patterns," Kiani explained, her scientific tone at odds with the pain in her eyes. "Human brain chemistry is fundamentally incompatible. The bonding process would cause catastrophic neurocascade failure." "In simple terms," Dr. Thalen added, "the attempt would kill her." Oliver sank into a chair. "There must be some way." "There is not." Dr. Thalen's tone was final. "The Council has recalled Specialist Kiani permanently. Her research will continue under controlled conditions on Xerantha." "Permanently?" Oliver looked at Kiani, who avoided his gaze. "When?" she said softly. "Tomorrow." When Dr. Thalen left them alone, the facade finally crumbled. Kiani's shoulders slumped, her composure breaking. "I fought for alternatives. I submitted to every test, every examination, but the biology is uncompromising." Oliver pulled her into his arms, feeling her tremble. "We don't need the life bond. We can find another way." She shook her head against his chest. "The Council will not permit it. They fear what would happen if we attempted the bond despite warnings. A political incident. They've ordered me home." "Then I'll go with you to Xerantha." "Humans cannot survive our atmosphere," she reminded him gently. "You would be confined to environmental chambers for life." That night, in the privacy of Oliver's quarters, they held each other in desperate silence, her skin against his, memorizing touches that would have to last a lifetime. "We must find a third option," Oliver whispered in the darkness. "Something between everything and nothing." New Horizons. The departure bay was crowded with station personnel come to bid farewell to the Xeranthian delegation. Oliver stood at a distance, maintaining the pretense that he and Kiani had merely been colleagues. His heart felt like lead as he watched her board the shuttle without looking back. 3 days later, he received an encrypted message from Dr. Thalen. "Medical Laboratory 3, Midnight. Come alone. Oliver found the Xeranthian doctor waiting with a small silver case. What I am about to show you violates council protocols, but I have seen what few have, a genuine connection between species. That is worth preserving. She opened the case, revealing two small devices. These are modified memory crystals, experimental technology. They can create a partial neural link, not the full life bond, but a connection that allows emotional resonance across any distance. Why would you help us? Progress requires risk, Dr. Thalen replied simply. The crystals must be surgically implanted, one near your brainstem, one near hers. They will synchronize through quantum entanglement. Does Kiani know about this? No. The shuttle carrying her has been delayed by an ion storm. It returns to dock for repairs tonight. You have one opportunity to choose. Oliver didn't hesitate. Do it. Hours later, with a small bandage at the base of his skull, Oliver stood in the empty arrival bay as Kiani's shuttle docked. Confusion crossed her face when he saw him. Oliver, why? He pressed a small control in his palm, the crystal at his brainstem activated. She gasped, her hand flying to her neck where Dr. Thalen had secretly implanted the paired device. What have you done? She whispered. But he could feel her emotions now, shock giving way to wonder. Created a third option, he said softly. Not the traditional bond, but a connection. She closed her eyes, feeling the link between them. The council will be furious. Let them, Oliver smiled. We're pioneering new territory here. Someone has to be first. 1 year later, Oliver stood in the new Human Xeranthian Cultural Exchange Center on Earth's moon. A small group of diplomats from both worlds gathered around him. The new modified neural links have proven successful in 7 human Xeranthian pairs. The technology bridges our biological differences while respecting the unique physiology of both species. From across the room, Kiani caught his eye. He felt her pride through their link, her love a warm presence in his mind. Their unorthodox solution had opened diplomatic doors previously thought impossible. Later, in their private quarters, Oliver traced the familiar patterns of her purple skin. Did you ever imagine this is where your research would lead? He asked. Kiani smiled, the expression now natural on her face after months among humans. Science often yields unexpected results. The best discoveries are the ones we never anticipated. As their lips met, not in the life bond of Shalimar, but in the human gesture she had come to cherish, Oliver reflected that some distances, even those between stars and species, were meant to be bridged. And some connections, however impossible they might seem, were worth every risk to forge. The neural crystals pulsed softly, synchronizing their heartbeats across the biological divide that had once seemed insurmountable. Their story had become legend among both species, proof that with enough determination, even the stars themselves could be touched.